even 60 seconds with someone. Wherever you're present, be present. So if you're going to be on the stage and you're going to be praying, or you're going to be teaching, or you're going to be strategizing, wherever you're present, be fully present.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Kingdom Builders Academy podcast. We're excited that you're here today. Excited to dive into a great topic, talking about producing profitable events. Coach Tam, I'm going to just pass off to you and maybe ask you, before we get into hosting your own events, filling events, running profitable events, filling seats, putting butts in seats, as they say. Coach Tam, would you just tell us a little bit about your event history? Because you are an OG event queen, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. How many people do you think have attended your events, Coach James? It's got to be in the millions.
Millions, yeah, millions. And part of that is because I am a glutton for punishment. I will just keep doing those events and filling them up, and so I've done that for decades, really. And I'm trying to think about what was sort of the origin, and it was probably street evangelism and missions, live events for outdoor evangelistic campaigns. That's really where I started. And then I felt God calling me to the business world and to evangelize business people. And so I started putting on small events of 50 to 100 people. That was considered a small event. I know that's kind of a big event when you're starting off to think about getting 50 to 100 people, but did sales training seminars, and I combined that with an evangelistic message. So I would do a bonus session called The Dynamics of Faith, where I would talk about the spiritual side of success. And so that just grew over the years. I added different speakers, and I worked with Norman Vincent Peale. Some of you might not know who he is, but he had a best-selling book called The Power of Positive Thinking that was on the number one on the bestseller list for years. It was really a blockbuster bestseller of epic proportions, and I was in my 20s and he was in his 90s, and I had him on the stage, and Dr. Robert Schuller hosted him, and then Zig Ziglar, and I remember that we did an event in New Orleans for Zig Ziglar, and it took over a year to persuade him to let me do it. He was very successful and very well known, and I was in my 20s, and being a woman, quite honestly, didn't necessarily help. And finally, he agreed. I'll let you produce an event for me in New Orleans because nobody wants to go to New Orleans. It was called the Promoter's Graveyard. But I lived there and I had connections, and I said, I will prepay your fee. And so he agreed to do it. And I had thousands of people at that event, close to 4,000. And Zach, your dad and I produced that. And Zig said, we were so tired. I think that's the most tired I've ever been, that event. And Zig's vice president said, hey, we'd like to meet with you after the event. He said, we're flying out at 5 a.m., but we'd like to meet with you at like 3 a.m. To talk to you. And I mean, you don't say no. So Zach, your dad said, what do you think that they want to meet with us about? I said, well, what do you think? I said, we just did a really successful event, like close to 4,000 people was huge at that time anywhere, but especially New Orleans. I said, they want us to do events for them all over the country. And sure enough, that's what they wanted. And I ended up being Zig Ziglar's exclusive promoter for decades until the end of his life. And the events grew, and soon we were producing events for 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, 30, 35,000 people. And so there's not too many things. People call me the queen of this or that. And usually I will not accept that title, but this is one where I do feel like I'm definitely an event queen.
Yeah, I love that, Coach Tam. I could listen to you just continue to tell these stories all day, but love that early experience and that early hustle that you put in, and that really set you up for a lifetime of success. And I know that just kind of the wins strung together from there. The bringing on presidents. I know getting Ronald Reagan to speak for an event was a big breakthrough. And of course, running a business over the course of decades has highs and lows and hills and valleys. And we'll save maybe some additional stories for another day, but would love to hear more as we go into events. I'll share just a little bit. I'm going to maybe just share quickly so that we can save more airtime for Coach Tam, and of course want to pass off to Jillian as well. But here's what comes to mind for me when I think about KBA students who host their own events and run their own events and see us run events. You know, we're kicking off an event campaign right now where our target is to have 20,000 people registered for an online event. So but we're really talking about in-person events today. But I think that the principles apply here, that there's two types of events, and then there's two reasons that people attend events. So I think it's important that you can kind of just have this framework of, hey, what type of event am I hosting? And then whatever kind of event I'm hosting, why will people want to attend, right? Because like that's kind of the biggest thing with events. It's really just getting people to the events. Like more important than your AV, more important than, you know, your food and beverage, more important than the event space and all the other fun stuff. The number one thing is getting people to the event. Like that's your biggest project. That's your biggest priority. That's what you've got to spend the most time on. So let's talk about why people want to attend events at a high level. But first, two types of events, I would say in the business setting, right? If you have a business, if you're running an event for your business, inside your business, is related to your business, there's sales events, and then there are fulfillment events. So a sales event is where we're going to make an offer at the event. The way the event is going to be profitable is we're going to make an offer at the event. We're going to have some kind of high ticket offer. Maybe we'll have a couple different offers, but we're going to have some opportunity for people to invest on the back end of your event. And Get Motivated, Coach Tam, was very much a sales event model. And the big thing with sales events is you want to get people in the door at all costs. You know, when you see an event like Get Motivated or others where there's an offer, usually tickets are actually not that expensive. Coach Tim, what ended up being like the biggest ticket promotion? Like you ended up hitting on like a big winner. It was like bring your whole office for like $20, something crazy like that.
$19. You can bring everybody from the CEO to the janitor, as many people as you want for $19.
So talking about like an irresistible offer to get people in the door, because that's a sales event. You know, you're never going to make money filling an event, bringing in high-level speakers, renting out a stadium, security and team and all of that stuff. You will never make money selling $20 tickets to a 20,000 person event. Okay. That math just doesn't math. It does not add up. There's going to be a back end offer there. So that's an example of a sales event. And that's one where we want to just get people in the door at all costs. The other type of event that you can think about doing is something else that we're doing, Coach Tam. We're hosting a boardroom event. We're hosting 12 people out to a private resort in Colorado Springs, and that's very much a fulfillment event. You know, we're not going to be making some big offer, and it's something that's a higher price point. It's $6,000 to come out to this event. So it's like two totally different types of events that you can host. Like one, you can think about using events as a sales mechanism, as a marketing and sales funnel for your business. But you can also do events like a fulfillment event, like a retreat, like a boardroom, like a mastermind, where maybe there's not going to be a back end offer, but we've got two totally different themes. So I think everybody here has the opportunity to do both types of events. And I want you to just be able to compartmentalize what you're doing and to be able to say, hey, what is the purpose of this event? The purpose of this event is to enroll people in my back end offer, right? And if that's the type of event, it's going to be a different model. It's going to be a lower ticket price. We're going to get people in the door at all costs. And then we're going to be able to convert a certain amount of those people. So we might be talking about bringing your whole office for $20 versus a fulfillment event. You're going to make money on the front end, right? We're not doing some big back end offer. We're going to make money on the front end. And like for us, you know, we're like kind of offering it to our own audience, right? So we're not even having to do marketing costs. We're not having to do a whole lot of investment in promotion because, hey, it's a small thing. It's a high ticket offer, but it's going to be like just an amazing experience. And we can put our real focus on creating an amazing experience instead of putting all of our focus on getting butts in seats and then making sure that all roads lead to an offer and all roads lead to conversion. So, there's two different ways to think about events, to host events. I think that's important. And then I'll just quickly touch on what I see are the two reasons that people want to attend events. There are two reasons people want to attend events. They see an event, they're like, I want to attend that. One is because they want to see people that they know. They want to see people that they know. So in one sense, that's speakers, right? Like if you've got a speaker lineup that people don't recognize, that's actually not going to be a draw. Just having speakers is not a draw. But when it's speakers that people know, like we're having John Maxwell, we're having Christine Kane, we've had Tim Tebow, right? People want to see those people speak, right? That's a draw. Another way to look at people want to see people that they know is if you already have your own community, right? If maybe people maybe know you, right? They maybe want to see you run an event. They want to spend time with you at an event, or they want to spend time with the community. So a great example is like we do these like Kingdom Builders conferences where we have a graduation and we have all of our students and we've got hundreds of students and coaching clients that are just all virtual all year long. But the opportunity to come together and see people that you know is a great reason to attend an event. So maybe you don't have the budget to bring in speakers that people know, but if you're doing a good job of building a community, building an online community, building an audience, building a family of friends and believers and people who are leaning in together, just putting people in a room that know each other virtually, that's a reason people want to see people that they know. That's the first thing. I think that applies to the speakers and it applies to the attendees and it applies to you, right? So like those are like, we got to find some mix of speakers that they know or that they know you or that they know the other people that are attending the event. Like that's going to draw people to an event. The other reason people attend an event is because they want to learn something they don't know. Okay, so it's they want to see people they know and they want to learn something they don't know. So I feel like every event should have some theme, right? Like even a women's conference is like a semi-theme. It's kind of more of a category. Like a women's conference needs to have a theme, right? Even our boardroom event like needs to have a theme. Like it's a breakthrough. We're having spiritual breakthrough. We're having business breakthrough, right? Coach Tam, one of the events that you attended that launched Kingdom Builders Academy was the theme was like on speaking. And like we're talking about, you didn't need to know an event on speaking, but you went to learn the online business model, right? Like there was something you wanted to know that you didn't know. So those are just some things that like, I want you to be able to compartmentalize what kind of event am I hosting? What's the purpose of this event? Is it a sales event or is it a fulfillment event? And then in either case, what's going to get people there? What makes people want to attend the event? They want to see people they know, whether that's famous speakers, whether they know you and want to see you because you've built a brand, or because you've built a community and they want to see other people in the community. And then there's got to be something that they're going to get out of it, right? That like, okay, I can say, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to get this. This is something that I can grow in that would be meaningful to me. And if you can kind of compartmentalize and then combine some of those factors, you're, I think, on a good track to being able to put on a purposeful and profitable event.
Yeah, so good, Zach. Really, really good. Well, I have a little bit of a checklist for you guys just to think about some things that especially those of you who have not done events, and even if you have, it's a lot of details goes into putting on events. So I have a bit of a checklist, but before I get to that, I kind of want to pivot to the in-person experience for the attendees because you want to make the attendees happy for a lot of reasons. I mean, just good work ethic would demand that. You want to operate in excellence and make it a beautiful event for attendees, something that's memorable, motivational for them, inspirational. You want them going away tanked up, fired up. And so I kind of want to pivot to Jillian here because Jillian has a lot of an extraordinary amount of talent in terms of stage presence. And in terms of being able to motivate an audience. And she's got a lot of experience. I actually hired Jillian when she was in her 20s. I was speaking at an event that she was the MC at, and she did a phenomenal job. And I thought, well, if this girl will come with me, I would like to put her on my stage and have her MC my events. And so she ended up doing that, and we started working together, and she's just such a gifted speaker. Just honestly, very few people that I can think of who have the prolific gift mix that she has in terms of communication. And so, Jillian, I just kind of like to pass off to you and share your thoughts on your public speaking experience and any tips that you would have for event promoters and speakers.
Wow. Are you sure you're talking about me? Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. I'll be right back. Um, I would say that the same thing that I think about churches is the same thing I think about events. And that is, how can you make it smaller? And I just mean by that, how can you add a personal touch or an interaction or an opportunity? And I think that, even when I was emceeing at Get Motivated, I saw that all the time. I saw, even when Coach Tam was representing different charities that would come to the event that she would promote, for those who were going to sponsor a child or participate in some way, that she did a book signing, and people would get to connect with her and thank her and take a photo with her. And she would write a message and a scripture and a word of encouragement in their book. And she would, just pour herself out. So there was that was an opportunity. There were some VIP rooms where, if you really wanted to kind of have the room get smaller, literally, and have, a lunch or a dinner or kind of a private Q&A. I watch Get Motivated do that over and over again. I've seen Kingdom Builders Academy do that, where kind of creates a round table where you get to hear from those speakers directly. We do that even with our live events online, where you can register to be a VIP, and it helps the room to get smaller. So that would be probably one of my tips that I have watched Coach Tam and Coach Zack do, and something that I've witnessed in a lot of events, is how can we take this and just provide multiple little touch points of intimacy and opportunity? You can do that with a little gift that you're going to give, anything that's kind of, I always say quality over quantity. If you can find a quality gift, whether it's a sweatshirt or if it's a coffee mug or a tumbler, and put your logo and, put their name on something, a prayer journal, just little touches that help to make the event, personal. And then I would say, the next thing is, you're going to do a lot of work. I remember, my very first event with Kingdom Builders, doing a live event in Florida, and the amount of work. Oh my, that was something. I had done events before, but I had not done anything like that. And I was wowzered by it all. But I do remember the very first time I actually met Coach Cindy Nash, who I call Lucille. I was at the event, and I was running from one room to the next, and there were a beautiful table of women from Kingdom Builders, and they said, "Hi, you look like you could have something to eat. You must be famished. Why don't you take this plate of food?" And I was so touched by their kindness, and I didn't even know them. And I just remember that interaction with those women. And I thought to myself, that's really what this is about. And so I would encourage you, as someone who is putting on an event, that whether you're taking pictures with people, if you have that opportunity, or maybe you're signing a book, or maybe you're hanging out at a meal, or having a fun excursion with someone, even 60 seconds with someone, wherever you're present, be present. So if you're going to be on the stage and you're going to be praying, or you're going to be teaching, or you're going to be strategizing, wherever you're present, Be fully present. Because even I remember watching Coach Tam for the first time, and it was like in front of 10,000 people. I was so nervous. I was sweating. She's like, "You're just going to do an exercise with me." I said, I cannot do this. She's like, "You're going to be great. That they're going to love you." And I just thought, you have lost your marbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all of your marbles. And she stepped into the round on this stage with thousands and thousands of people. And it was so wild because for so many people to be in the room, I felt like she was only talking to me and I was just the helper, window wiping or whatever I was doing. And so I would just say that is something to be aware of, that whether you've got 50 people in the room, 5,000 or 15,000, whether you're online or in person, whether you're on a stage or passing in a hallway and someone's going, "Oh, I just wanted to say hi." Wherever you're present, be present, because that 1 minute exchange of them, and it's usually them telling you, "We love you so much." Like, "Oh, thank you so much for putting this on," or "This one thing touched my life," or "Oh, can I just take a picture with you?" Be present. Be present. And don't wish that moment away or be in such a hurry that you're trying to get to the next thing. Wherever you're present, be present. Make it small, make it intimate, find ways to go in and out of people's worlds. Because I do think that when they leave, that's what they're going to remember. Strangely enough, I think that is the thing they remember is that moment of connection where they felt like they were the only one in the room, or you prayed for them. That's strangely enough, or maybe not, maybe it's not so strange, but I think that's a beautiful reflection of how God's love works, that he finds a way to find us in the crowd of worshipers, or to find us in this great big world. Like he finds a way to touch the tender places. So stay sensitive to that. You know, you have an agenda, you have what you're going to say, you come prepared, you have your lineup, your speakers, your program, whatever it is, but be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, right? Because that's kind of what sets us apart from everyone else doing this, is that we're going to be sensitive. So if you were in a worship set, yeah, thumbs up. If you were in a worship set to that moment, and you can just genuinely feel the presence of God, maybe the Holy Spirit is actually touching the people in the room right then. And maybe your words actually aren't the most important thing in the room. Maybe your slide deck isn't the most important thing in the room, but maybe just going, "I'm going to yield to the Holy Spirit in this moment." And I really believe that as Christians, in whatever area, whatever arena, whatever mountain God is calling us to, that's what separates us from everyone else, is that we actually have the Spirit of the living God that lives inside of us. And he has thoughts, and he has feelings, and he has plans, and he has things to say. And you show up prepared, but then I would yield yourself, because he might have a word for that room, for that online space, that online gathering that maybe you didn't prepare. And if we yield and we surrender to that, then those people get a now word, and they get that fresh revelation that's a gift from God. So, I'd make it small, make it intimate, and stay yielded, because that's going to be the thing that changes people's lives the most.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Zack, what should we do next? Should we?
Yeah, Stan, we can wrap there. If you got anything to add to close us out, we could do that. But love this topic. I know it's one, like I said, maybe we'll just interview you next time, Coach Tam. And
Let me give you I think I'll give you a little checklist. I'll go through it pretty quick, but if you are doing a live event, we've touched on some things, but take notes here, because these are things that you need to think about. As Zack said, theme and branding, your location, your venue. You need to think about, what is your goal for the audience. And what I find sort of universally is that people tend to overestimate how difficult or how easy it will be to fill up a room and how many people will come. And this is especially true when you're being invited to speak somewhere. You'll say, how many people are you anticipating being in the audience? And they'll say, "Oh, 500. And then you show up and there's 50 people, right? So if you're speaking and you're asking that question, pretty much cut it in half, then cut it in half again, then cut it in half again. And what I would say too is, how many times have you done an event like this? And what was your attendance in times past? And really drill down with them and get specific, because that is an area where most event promoters struggle, even veteran event promoters. I can't tell you the number of times that people have called me in desperation saying, my event is a week away and I only have X number of people, and what can I do to beef up my audience at this stage? So you want to think about what is your ideal, what is really realistic. And of course, you've got to think about your dates. And when you're thinking about your dates, you have to think about holidays and election cycles and sports events and what else is going on that could potentially conflict with your dates. Speakers, who are you going to have speak? Are you going to have music? Are you going to have a time of worship? Well, we've got to get those pieces in place too. You have to think about your schedule and your breaks. And here's a big one, is who's going to speak after a meal. This is a big deal because they get tired after meals. They've had a few sessions, now they've had a meal, and now they're a little bit sleepy. So you definitely want to put somebody dynamic, but usually it's not going to be your headliner, because you're going to save your headliner till the end. So not only do you have to think about filling your venue, but you have to think about retaining your audience, because people will leave in the midst of the event. So we've got to keep the event exciting so that they don't want to leave. AV, Zack mentioned, your audio visual. You need to think about your seating. Are you going to do theater style seating? Are you going to do classroom style seating with a table? Are you going to do a breakout room, a green room, a holding room for your speakers that you don't want to necessarily put them in the midst of all the chaos and commotion in the big room, and especially if they haven't yet spoken yet, they want a few minutes to sort of relax and decompress and maybe review their notes. You need to have a place to put them. Food and beverage, VIP meals, accommodations. If it's going to be a multi-day event, you have to think about your accommodations. Transportation. How are you getting your speakers from the airport, for example? And then you have to consider what your outlay of cash is going to be for AV, for your venue, for your speaker and musician fees, and all these ancillary costs, food and beverage, your gift bags, giveaways and prizes. So you have to factor in all these costs, because at the end of the day, you've got to be able to make this thing profitable, or you've got to be able to finance it yourself. I just had, I was invited to speak at an event. I liked the host. I liked the theme, but I didn't want to travel. So I said, what I'll do is I'll make a video for you. And now this is a veteran promoter. This is somebody who has produced probably hundreds of events, but she wasn't thinking of it like an event promoter. You have to consider the cost before you build a tower, before you produce an event. So she called me and said, I'm just kind of crushed because I was expecting 300 people and I had about 40. And these 40 people were generous because they made love offerings, donations of $7,000, but it didn't even scratch the surface of her event costs. So these are really important considerations that you have to figure out before you produce the event. You don't want to be calling Coach Tam after the event and saying, gosh, I'm so devastated because this thing happened. We've got to address that on the front end. Think about your ticket prices. Are you going to do a free event? If so, as Zack says, you've got to monetize it with a high ticket back end offer. I don't think that the donation model, the love offering model, is really a great model in today's day and age. Certainly, if you're at the top of the food chain, you're making a lot of money, but it will take you decades to get to the top. So we have to think about how we're going to monetize it, our ticket prices, and how to fill the venue. How are you going to get people in the seats? How are you going to promote it? Definitely, you want to have your speakers promote it to their audiences, and you want to make sure that you have speakers who have an audience to promote to. You want to think about your volunteers, your parking, your ushers, childcare, if you're going to have that, your registration table. Are you printing tickets? Are you printing workbooks? Are you having some sponsors? All of that takes a lot of work and a lot of thought. And then I'll end with this, maybe two things, is that I want you to do duplicatable and repeatable events. Wonderful to do a fabulous event. Fantastic. We want people going away really happy, but also the second time you produce that event, it's going to be so much easier than the first time you produced it. And the 10th time you produce that event, it's going to be so much easier than the first and second times. So I would like you to think in terms of longevity of your events rather than changing events and speaking to the same audience. What if you have the same event and you change audiences? That's a cool way to look at it. And then as a final little cherry on top, I'm going to say that virtual events are the best. It is all the fun and a fraction of the work. You can reach so many people. Take the best of this checklist that I gave you, because those things still do apply, but it's a whole lot less work. It's really, really fun. And I would encourage those of you who are interested in doing it to dip your toe in the water of virtual events, because it's a lot of fun. All right, that's it for me.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we'll come back to this topic and go a little deeper. So much to get into there, but yeah, good checklist to have your ducks in a row. Don't let it intimidate you. It is just something you got to count the cost and prepare right. But it is fun, like you said, Coach Tam. Virtual events, it's a lot of the same benefits without all of the commitment and cost. So something else for us to talk about in the future. But love this episode. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Coach Tam. We will talk again soon. Love you all. Bless you all. Bye, everyone.
Hi, this is Tamara Lowe, founder of Kingdom Builders Academy, here with a free gift for you, our loyal podcast listeners. We're giving away free copies of my newest book, Business Plus Ministry Equals Success, a superior model to profitably change your world. You can download your free copy right now at kbabook.com. That's kbabook.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Kingdom Builders Academy podcast today. Join us again for our next exciting episode.